So we're going to be upscaling this image using Topaz Gigapixel. Now, as you can see, it's a 3D render. It's a nice sort of pastel image, very stylized, of some ice cream, fruit, and some other bits. And as you can see, it's quite obviously a stylized 3D render, right? So I'm looking at this at 100% view. Let's just quickly check the resolution or the dimensions before I continue. Okay, so you've got less than 2000 pixels on the height. So it's pretty modest in its resolution. It definitely could do with enlarging. So I'm using the Photoshop plugin for Topaz Gigapixel. So to access that, once it's installed correctly, go to File, Automate, and Topaz Gigapixel AI. But if you don't want to use Photoshop, or you don't want to use the plugin, or you haven't got it, you can just run the Gigapixel app, the standalone app, and everything will work. Should work exactly the same. So here I've got the image at 100% magnification again, and as usual I've got this defaulted to not actually do anything when I first load it up, just so you can see me doing it step by step. So it's obviously at no upscale at the moment. Now I'm going to put it to 4 times because that's just my favourite standard one-size-fits-all kind of upscale amount for this size image, for the this kind of image. It just gives it plenty to work with. So if you look at the output size now, we're going to be nearly 8,000 pixels, which might actually be too much. 2 times might be perfectly fine, but I'm going to do it 4 times anyway because why not? It can handle it very, very nicely. So I'm just going to have a quick look round. I've got it default into standard V2 as the AI model here, which I'm not going to end up using for this, but I'm going to try a couple of options here. I don't instinctively know which one might work on this, and I'll tell you why, because it's got options for Art CG along with some other ones. Now, I use high fidelity V2 for a lot of my enlargements with Topaz, because it's just in the newer versions where it's available anyway, because it's just so good. Preserving details, keeping edges nice and sharp. But we do have a setting here for specifically for CG, Art CG. So let's see what happens when we use that mode. I'm just scrolling this to I might just drop the magnification down, the zoom just a little bit smaller. I'm just looking for something where I can see some nice texture. So I can see the waffle cone sort of texture at the top. I can see all these clean, sharp highlights, and then the strawberry, you've got these other textures. Now, it's really important when you're dealing with these kind of images to pick the right model, because you don't want these sharp, super clean edges going soft. So I'm going to click Art CG, which instinctively you would think that'd be the right one. Let's have a look. Now, I'm not too happy with that. If I go to 100%, again, let me go down to this strawberry. I mean, it looks okay. Let me just wait for the view to refresh. When you click and drag it round, it kind of just takes off the effect for the moment and you'll let it go. But compared to standard, I think it's actually worse than the standard. It's almost, it's made things blurrier. It's made the edges just not as finessed and not as delicate looking. It looks quite chunky and a bit over-processed. So let me just have a look at the other part of the image just to make sure my eyes aren't deceiving me. Yeah, this looks like something that's been put into Photoshop and unsharp mask has been applied at too extreme an amount. So let's try high fidelity V2. So again, this is a really good all-round modern sort of gigapixel model. And that looks super clean and crisp already. Let me go down and check the strawberry. Let it update a second. Wow, look at that. That's all the lines are super sharp and clean. All the reflections, the tiny little details. Give it a second to update. That's looking really good. And this is what you really want to preserve with these kind of shots, is the crisp rendering lines, so it still looks like it's been rendered out of the original software, but just at this much larger size. So I think that's a really good starting point at least. So I'm going to go down to the settings here at the bottom, and I'm just seeing if there's anything we need to do here. Absolutely no denoising to be done. There's no noise in this image anyway. I'll come back to deblur in a minute. Fixed compression. There is no visible compression artifacts on this image because it was nice and clean. This was from unsplash.com, which is a free stock photo website. Minor deblur. Now, this is like we always say, it's just like a bit of sharpening. I'm not sure it really needs any sharpening because the upscaling process has actually made this sort of razor sharp as it is. So I'm actually going to choose to not process with any of those settings at all. I'm just going to save it back to Photoshop, and we'll just have a quick look at the final result in Photoshop itself, where we should be able to just double check the final resolution and make sure that everything's saved down okay. So now we've got this image that is huge, you know. I mean, look how clean it is. I'm actually really impressed with this one, because if I turn this layer off, what you're seeing underneath after we've obviously got a much bigger document, so what you're seeing on the background layer is what it would look like if you just loaded the image into Photoshop and just went to image size and just made it 4 times the size. And then I click back on the Gigapixel layer and you can see, so it not only upscales the image, but it also actually can increase the quality of the original image and make it sharper than it would have been even at its original resolution, which for stuff like this is excellent. I'm looking around, there's no artifacts I can see, no bad edges. Everything looks super crisp and pristine.